So, hello and welcome. If you're a big fan of command line management and automation like I am, then you might find Azure Cloud Shell as a useful tool in managing your Azure resources. Hi, I'm Jason Helmick, a product manager on the PowerShell team, and having the right tooling to get work done really does matter. Fortunately, Darren Tu, one of the engineers from Azure Cloud Shell, is here to give us a quick look at a great tool for your CLI experience if you're managing Azure resources. Darren, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm glad that you came by today. Hey, before we start diving in, can you maybe tell us all a little bit about yourself? How long you've been on the team? What do you do on the team? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, Jason. So I actually have been here for around close to 3 years now. I love the team. It's an amazing team. And I've kind of been working on all these different parts of Cloud Shell. There's usually quite a few different things that require my attention. I've worked quite a bit on the back end, the front end stuff, the UX stuff, the architecture, the security compliance. A list of all those fun things that, so just I got a chance to dabble around a lot of different things. I've worked specifically quite a bit on a lot of the package management related stuff in Cloud Shell. So things like, what packages that we have, and also making sure that the packages are of the right version when it comes in as well. Yeah.
So really, when I'm using Cloud Shell, a lot of the work that you do at putting Cloud Shell together, making sure it has the right packages for me to use, all of that, that's all you.
I mean, that's the entire team, but I do take a big part of it.
Well, at least we all know who to call first now. So that's the best part. That's awesome. Now, Darren, for a lot of folks may, they might enjoy a command line experience and all that, but they may never have seen Azure Cloud Shell. Can we get kind of started by maybe showing everybody what Cloud Shell is and what they can kind of do with it?
Sure, Jason. So I'm going to share my screen here. Yeah, so this
that looks like the portal to me.
The Azure portal screen. And this is, I assume, the screen that people are quite familiar with. If you go on to the top right here, you can see a button, and that button, if you hover over it, that's the Azure Cloud Shell button. So if you click on that, you will see this is, this is Cloud Shell.
This is Cloud Shell, but it looks like it's running my product, PowerShell, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, this is Cloud Shell, and this is, there's a few warnings here, but those warnings are essentially, they're just referring to just making sure that you choose the right subscription here.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to, in case if it's a little small, I'm going to change the font size for you right here.
I was just going to ask you about the font size. So I see that you're going to this, and I'll ask you about the toolbar in a little bit, but you go into the settings. So I can change font sizes and stuff and fonts, things like that. Oh, that's a lot easier to read.
Is that better to read?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it is. It is. Thanks.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So Cloud Shell here, actually, it's essentially like it's a terminal, right, on the web. You can use things like Bash, you can use PowerShell, and both of these are accessible easily inside of Cloud Shell. We have multiple different really cool tools that are contained inside of Cloud Shell, such as Python, Node.js. We also ship always the latest version of Azure CLI. We work very closely with the Azure CLI team to make sure that when they ship their Azure CLI, we ship the same Azure CLI with the same latest version of it to our customers as well.
Now wait a minute. This is really cool, because usually when I'm sitting on my local machine and I want to go out and do some work in Azure, first thing I need to do is I need to make sure I have the latest version of Azure CLI. I need to have the latest Azure PowerShell. I have to build all of this tooling to be able to, have the latest and greatest to go manage my stuff. But you're already doing that for me already in Cloud Shell. So basically, if I just stop using my local one and start using this one, you've taken all the work away from me for that.
Yeah, we've really tried to make it as simple and as easy as possible for those who are using Cloud Shell, where they don't have to worry about installing all these packages and all these tools. And something really interesting, Jason, that a lot of people probably aren't aware of is that Cloud Shell is actually used very heavily inside of Microsoft Learn. So there are multiple different, let's say, for
Yeah.
example, tutorials on, Python, Node.js, or potentially Azure PowerShell that actually directly integrate with Azure Cloud Shell. So you basically, a lot of those pages have it so that, on the left-hand side is the tutorial, and on the right-hand side is
Yeah.
essentially Azure Cloud Shell. Yeah. And so the way it works is that the tools are like pre-built in so that customers can just, they can jump right in and start using Cloud Shell. Yeah.
I just love that, and I've spent a lot of time on the Microsoft Learn site learning things, and of course it's great to have Cloud Shell as a tool that you can actually try things out with. But I think you mentioned something that's even more important for folks is you've got this browser-based experience, but also you could use this in things like Windows Terminal and VS Code as the terminal in those tools. So this is actually pretty slick. You're building up this, with all of the software that I need to be able to manage Azure. And boy, I bet you it costs a lot.
Yeah, it costs a lot from Microsoft, but it's completely free for our customers to use. So
Now, see,
I think
that's the key phrase. And I think we're going to hit on this some more, but
yeah.
it's free. I love this. But first of all, Darren, as much as I love being in PowerShell, I just wanted to, you had mentioned that maybe you're somebody who prefers Bash and you like to write stuff in Python. Well, I'm a PowerShell person. Obviously, Cloud Shell does it. But what if I was a Bash person? What would I be doing?
Yeah, you can actually very easily over here like switch to Bash. So let's say, for example, if
Oh,
I
right
want
there on the
to,
bar. Switch to
yeah,
PowerShell,
right there in
switch
the
to
bar,
Bash.
we can switch to Bash, and that's something that probably needs to be fixed. But the idea here is that, yeah, it's very simple for you to switch around from Bash to PowerShell, or PowerShell to Bash, of course, vice versa. And all of this is running on top of Azure Linux, which is also called Mariner. And so you're using actually a Linux machine when you're running PowerShell as well.
I
Yeah.
just want to throw this out. I think this is so cool. The container that holds Cloud Shell is a Linux container, Azure Linux specifically, and yet you can still use PowerShell. And this is where I'm just going to put my own product plugin. PowerShell is cross-platform, so yes, it's running on Linux in Azure. It's just incredible to me. This is fascinating. Now, Darren, a while back, I'd seen Cloud Shell before, and that toolbar was very confusing to me because it was just a whole series of icons. I mean, I figured a few of them out, but it looks like you've made some changes and updated this toolbar.
Yeah, our team has made quite a few changes within
Oh,
the
good.
last
I
few
love that.
months. Yeah, yeah. So if it's all right with you, I'm going to kind of show the toolbar
Yeah.
to folks. So as you can see here, you have, as I mentioned before, that switch from Bash to PowerShell or PowerShell to Bash. There's the restart button. When you click on it, you actually get a completely brand new container from Cloud Shell. And that container allows it so that, for example, if you're stuck in something really weird or some loop that's just going for some reason from the scripts that you're running, the restart really is very simple. That gives you a completely new container, a completely new experience to it. And it's
like that.
really easy for you to just literally restart Cloud Shell. And then we have, as you can see here, an ability for you to upload or download files. I will demo something really quickly, and it's just really a simple, very, very, very simple Python script. It's just called hello.
Oh, yeah.
And
Since you're
you
in
can see
Bash.
here.
Oh, yeah. Let's see that it works.
Yeah, so this is uploaded to my directory, right? Hello.py, so it's a Python file. And if I just type in something like Python, hello, actually, I'm going to just showcase that it has been uploaded, right? Hello.py, as you can see here.
Oh, yeah.
So now I'm going to type in Python, hello.py, bang, hello world. Obviously,
And it just ran
very simple script.
Yeah, I know.
Very
Very simple, but yet very cool to prove the point, right? That you can run all the. What I really like is I can, whether I'm in Bash or PowerShell, I can write the scripts that I'm accustomed to writing. I can upload them and I can use them to manage my Azure resources. Really, really cool. What else is up there too?
Yeah, so you can download a file. You can, if you want to run multiple sessions of Cloud Shell, you can actually do so. It's not too hard. And there's also a code editor that is inside of Cloud Shell that looks very similar to VS Code. If you click on it, as of right now, we have it so that it hasn't been fully integrated to the new version or the new UI of Cloud Shell. But if you can go back to the old one, which you can still do, you can still use the code editor. So that is available. And then we have
and that code editor. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that code editor, it's pretty simple code editor. I mean, a lot of folks do a lot of their work in VS Code, but that's okay. You can do your work in VS Code and upload your scripts, and maybe you need to make a quick change, and this is a great editor to make that quick change with, right?
Right. And also, just very quick mention, we also have things like Vim and all that stuff here as well. So that is definitely something that you can do inside of Cloud Shell. And then a lot of things, like some of the interesting features that people probably are not the most familiar with. So for example, the web preview is also here and available for people to use. So for example, if you click on the web preview here, and let's say you're running a web server of some sort, you can actually expose the port of your web server to the outside world. And that would allow you to actually run something directly in Cloud Shell. So yes, Jason, you can
okay, I'm sitting here going, I can make an
like
Apache server in Cloud Shell.
Wouldn't recommend it, but you can do so. So
totally cool.
It's quite, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, it just shows all the power that, I mean, when you say you're giving us a Linux container for Cloud Shell, you meant it. You're giving us a container for Cloud Shell. So all of the things that you can do with it, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, this is the web preview, and then of course with the settings, you can change the text size, the font size, or the various different fonts, the theme of Cloud Shell. And yeah, and we plan on adding more features into this as well in the future.
Well, you know, this looks really straightforward for me to get started using, and all of that kind of stuff. But something that you had mentioned, you know, we had talked about this. You're the person that's packaging these tools so that Cloud Shell is ready to use as soon as I fire it up. You know, those tools, they get updated, they change. Azure updates really fast. How often do you update these tools? What, like every 6 months, every year? What is your update cadence, so to speak?
Yeah, so we actually update our tools around once a month. So basically, whenever Azure CLI or Azure PowerShell releases one of their new really cool features, we try to make sure that we actually have it released at the same time that they're released. And so, yeah, roughly once a month is the updates. We grab things directly from Azure Linux, so directly on packages.microsoft.com. So whenever a new package is available there, published by Azure Linux, we grab it and then we ship it to our customers.
Wow, your update cadence is a lot better than mine, and I really appreciate that because you're getting all the security fixes, you're getting the new features, security being a big deal. But let me ask you this. You're putting those tools in. When I use Cloud Shell, can I install some tools of myself? Maybe I've got some PowerShell modules that I like to use, things like that. Can I install those too?
Yeah, you can install pretty much everything that doesn't require root command. So for example, if you wanted to, yeah, like whether it be PowerShell, extensions, Azure CLI extensions, various different PowerShell stuff, or Python stuff, it's very easy for you to install. And it's really completely up to the user as to how they want to manage this Cloud Shell instance.
Okay, and I'm going to remind you in a few minutes about this conversation about free, because it sounds to me like this is an awful lot of power that you're giving us to be able to use, which is totally awesome. But you'd also had mentioned that besides the toolbar, that the Cloud Shell team has been making some other updates and changes to Cloud Shell.
Yeah, so Jason, one of the things that probably people don't see directly, but something that the Cloud Shell team has worked a lot on is really trying to enhance our security within Cloud Shell. So something like adding in Azure Front Door, which is a content delivery network, along with a firewall, so the web application firewall, so that every single time when customers use Cloud Shell here, they are actually using it behind a firewall. So we are really doing our best to protect our customers and really build this trust with them. And so like when they're using Cloud Shell, they can have a sense of confidence that this is a more secure and become even more secure of a version of Cloud Shell when they're using it.
Well, I love the focus on security. I think all of us need to continue to focus strongly on security. I want to have a trusted connection while I manage my resources in trusted tools. So I know that all of us really appreciate the strong security focus that you bring to Cloud Shell. Um, is that mostly what you guys are doing? Is focused on the security for Cloud Shell?
That is a significant portion of what we have been focused on. One of the really cool things, I'm not sure if folks have noticed it in the beginning, but if you click on Cloud Shell here,
Yeah,
um, this font size is big enough, right? I just want to make sure
yeah, it's
it's
great.
the large font size. Yeah, so this Cloud Shell session here is actually an E session, so essentially a non-persistent Cloud Shell session. And the really cool thing about this is that it doesn't require a storage account. So if, for example, you wanted to use Cloud Shell, you don't have to use a storage account and you can just start using Cloud Shell. So Jason, one of the largest barriers of entries we understand our customers go through is actually creating that first storage account. And the data now shows that since we've had ephemeral sessions, which has started within like the last few months, we've seen a drastic rise of people who actually prefer ephemeral sessions over a storage account session. And that's just because ephemeral sessions are just so easy to use. And it's also pretty much the same exact experience as a storage account session, but now you don't have to worry about, creating a storage account or, getting billed every month or whatever it may be, which is something that pertains significant importance to especially a lot of new Azure users who just want to learn and how to, play around with Cloud Shell or play around with Azure. They don't really want to be, thinking about potential billing implications or whatever that may be. And so Cloud Shell really is a completely free way of using of Azure and for you to manage your Azure resources.
Okay, you said that magical free word again, but this time I think you really quantified it. And for folks that aren't as familiar with Azure, one of the things, if you want to store things in Azure, you need to have a storage account. That's kind of like your virtual disk up in Azure. And Cloud Shell, you may want to store scripts and you may want to store things. So Cloud Shell previously required that you had a storage account that you might have to just pay for. So Cloud Shell wasn't entirely free, but now I love this feature. Ephemeral sessions, I don't need a storage account at all. And I can go in, I can do everything I did before. The only difference is I don't store my scripts in Cloud Shell. I have to, upload them to run them. Um, it seems to me, Darren, that this is a cost savings. It's fast. This is great. I love it.
Yeah, no, and we do hope our customers love this experience. So if I were to, for example, right now, just reset my Cloud Shell, so
Yeah.
reset the user settings here. So this is the screen that users will see when they first enter into Cloud Shell.
Oh,
Uh,
important note. This is the experience I'm going to have the very first time I use Cloud Shell, right?
Yes. So you can choose either Bash or PowerShell. Let's say if we were to choose PowerShell here, you are given the option of either having a no storage account required or you can mount a storage account. So we're giving our customers the flexibility of doing what we previously had, which is, you're required to do a storage account, or, you can have the option of just using, no storage account and creating your Cloud Shell session from there. With the mounted storage account, you do get what we call persistent storage. So, for example, if you have certain files that are located inside of your Cloud Drive directory, you can have it persist in there. But most customers, we believe, don't really care that much about it. And for the most part, if they really do need some script that they're working on in Cloud Shell, it's very easy, as I've shown before, to just upload that script right directly into Cloud Shell, and you can kind of just have that same experience and feel.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I've stored some scripts in storage accounts before. They're easy to retrieve and get out of, but there's no difference in retrieving them or the speed or the ease as if I just had them on my local machine and I uploaded them. So it really is great that the customer gets to decide, does the cost matter? Does the cost not matter? And then be able to choose that option. With all of your work around security and things like making these ephemeral sessions, this really does make this a go-to tool in my head. I really love this. So you're doing all this work and all of this. Let's say that I have a problem, or I maybe there's a tool that I really need in Azure, but Cloud Shell doesn't have it. How can it? Or do you guys take feedback from customers? Is there a way I can reach out to you to say, hey, I might like some new tools or something like that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We definitely do take our, the feedback from our customers, and we also care a lot about the feedback from our customers.
Oh, that
So
looks
one
like
of
a
the
GitHub
pages,
page.
yes, yes, sorry. So yes, we do have a GitHub page, and this GitHub page is actually the GitHub page that contains information as to the actual underlying packages inside of Cloud Shell. So all of the packages that you see within the Cloud Shell container is located here. You can actually see the Docker files that are used to build these containers. And so, Jason, as you've mentioned, if, for example, you have various different concerns, issues, or even if you, for example, want to create, you want a new package to be just pre-installed in Cloud Shell, you can always feel free to, file an issue, create a pull request, and or even like start a discussion with us, and we'd be happy to kind of like learn a little bit more about people's concerns and also their thoughts, and kind of work on it, and really kind of build a bit of a community inside of Cloud Shell as well, and that's very important to us.
I love it. I know that as a previous working IT engineer, being able to get support on your tooling is very important. I love the fact that you guys are so customer focused and that you want to talk with the folks using the product. I think that's just amazing. And not to mention the new features of Ephemeral and stuff like that. It's all amazing. So, Darren, with Cloud Shell, what's the future? I mean, is Cloud Shell going to be there for me in the next 6 months so I can keep working? Is it going to be there for me next year? Or are you going to keep making it better?
Yeah, we sure hope so. Yeah, so yeah, we do have quite a few things that we aim on working on. So one of the largest things that we've have, as I've mentioned before, like our focus is really on how can we make this experience more secure. So we're doing a lot of things with ensuring our certificates, our secrets are properly being managed. If we're using things like don't want to get to too many technical details, but like the idea of using managed identity within Azure inside of Cloud Shell and all these other things to really make your experience on Cloud Shell more secure is actually our top priority right now. So that's the main focus for the Cloud Shell team. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. And I have to say, we're at the end of the video, so I want to thank you so much because you made this really easy on showing everybody around Cloud Shell. And to everybody else who gets a chance to watch this, I hope a quick little tour on Azure Cloud Shell has been really beneficial and gives you some options to start working with your command line experience in Azure today. And don't worry, I'm going to give you links to documentation, to the GitHub site for Cloud Shell, maybe even Darren's personal cell phone number. We'll see how that all goes. And with that, thanks everyone so much. Darren, thank you so much for your time and the wonderful information today.
Right. Thank you, Jason.